Let's talk today about mind viruses. I'm talking about imposter syndrome. I'm talking about limiting beliefs, depression, toxic thinking, despair. These are the things we struggle with sometimes. And it's not limited, of course, to overeating or your diet, but although it can be. But we need to spend some amount of energy and time in spotting these things, in seeing when and where negative thinking is coming from. Now, from the outset, I don't like this topic because it usually associates with other topics that are not legit. For instance, law of attraction stuff, and there's tons of stuff here and all over the internet. I say here, I mean YouTube, but anywhere all over the internet where these Napoleon Hill types set up shop and they say, if you invest in my course, if you send me $3,000, $4,000, you can go in my masterclass and you can go in my training program and get trained and stuff like that. Well, this is based on this law of attraction sort of nonsense, this Abraham Hicks sort of nonsense. And if you're familiar with all of that, I want you to distance yourself from me and this channel as far as you can from that, because that's usually the beginning of sorrows for a lot of people. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, who believe that success is outside of them, and they'll always chase it and they'll spend money to do it. Ultimately, this channel is all about the fact that success is within you. Everything from controlling cravings to readjusting your life patterns to sleeping better, all of it comes back to you just listening to your inner voice. And that's what this is about. So we're going to talk today about ways to spot limiting beliefs, depression, on all of this stuff. And of course, it's all related. Not a lot of people know, by the way, that Napoleon Hill was one of the greatest fraud. The guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich was one of the biggest frauds of all time. He actually went through his life in debt because he was a scammer. And at the very end of his life, it finally caught up with him, but not in time. He's still remembered for saying a lot of good things. And a little bit of what he said was true, but he was a huckster, and that's the way life works. We tend to remember the hits and forget the misses. Just like with psychic predictions and claims, we forget what people are wrong about because our brain sees the patterns that we want to see. So when we go in here, there's a lot of danger. So we're going to first talk about imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it is that limiting belief that's probably king of them all. And it says, wow, if only everybody knew what kind of a loser I am. People would walk away from me. If only everybody knew that, how I talk to myself, that I feel this way or that way. People would not have anything to do with me. This is classic imposter syndrome, and it's something, incidentally, that all successful people feel. And many studies have addressed this. People who are successful have self-doubt, because the thing with self-doubt is that's what makes you successful. So it's like going into a room and everybody else is thinking the same thing you are, but in your mind, they're better than you. And it works that way with nearly everyone. Now, of course, there are people who think and are hiding the fact that they are losers, and they're legitimately losers. How do you know whether or not you are truly not a loser or are a loser? Well, the fact that you're thinking about and worried about being a loser and you don't want to be one means that the wisdom of imposter syndrome is probably true and describes you. You feel like you're the victim, and therefore that's a limiting belief. So what are the ways that you can spot limiting beliefs? The first is to recognize before we actually get started on what I have prepared, is that it's no different than a virus, a limiting belief. A virus isn't alive. It just hijacks the machinery in your own cells and reproduces. It's like a code on your computer. You see, a hacker creates a virus that is going to take the operation of your computer and mess it up to where when it's like throwing a monkey wrench in a machine, as the saying goes. So that's all these things are, but there's therefore a way to spot them if you know what to look for. Number one, they always lead to a worse place. It's like binging. It always leads to a worse place. Whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight or just maintain self-control, binging is always a bad deal. It's not going to make you healthier. It's not going to make you smarter. It's not going to make you better looking. It's not going to make you richer. In fact, it'll do the reverse of all of those. It'll hurt you in a way that is forever going to be a negative. So that's the thing. they always lead to a worse place. You sitting around calling yourself a loser will forever lead to a worse you. It will never lead to a better you where all of a sudden you're a better father, you're a better mother, you're a better employee. No, it doesn't work that way. You're not a better businessman for calling yourself a loser, from calling yourself not worth it. It causes you to invest less in yourself. And that's how to spot that. That's the key there. It becomes more logical to continue when you do more. Think about that. It becomes more logical when to curse yourself than to actually improve. And it causes you to invest less in yourself. So again, it's like eating cake batter. It's like going out and buying a big bag of animal cookies and stuffing them down. It's never going to help you. It'll just distract you. So the limiting belief always leads to a worse place. And it's not like it's going to have a one-off effect. It never does. It always takes you down. So look at every negative thing you've said to yourself in your life and see where it's led you. It's always a worse you. It's always a more depressed you. Never is that going to change. Number two, they start with overgeneralizations and lead to powerlessness. So this is binary thinking. Worshiping, we can take this, the worshiping of gurus and this law of attraction business. Look at how many people have spent their last dollar, have maxed out their credit cards trying to follow a guru, because they thought that success is outside of them. Well, that leads to them believing that X guru or Y guru is always right. So that's binary thinking. You come to see through it over time if you're wise enough, but you're lower than when you started. That's the problem with following a guru and loving someone and admiring someone too much, is you start to just go in that direction. And you're not a better person. A healthy person, a better person understands that life is a mixed bag. They understand that I make my own mistakes. I'm right about many things. I'm wrong about a few too. So your view of me should be the same view of yourself and the same view of anyone else. Ultimately, you have an obligation to see reality and accept reality as a mixed bag rather than as needing help. You shouldn't be needing much help. Help is, hey, can you hand me a nail? Here's a nail. Now you hammer the thing in. You shouldn't say, well, I need you to do everything for me. You see the difference? Are you making the application there? Number three, they are convenient excuses for inaction and laziness. This starts from the last point we made. This is people saying they're genetically fat. And I get a lot of people that say, well, I have a gland problem. I have something else. Sure you do. But even if you do, it doesn't justify it. If you come from a family of alcoholics, you don't say, well, I can drink because I genetically have a weakness for drinking. Well, how does that help you? It always leads to inaction and a convenient excuse. I'm too ugly to be loved. Some kid goes on Tinder and says, hey, the women aren't replying back to me, therefore I'm a loser. I'm ugly. Well, that's very convenient, because now instead of taking better photos, instead of being more discriminate in the type of people you engage with, you're going to do the opposite and you're going to put yourself out there. There's a big difference in saying I want a wife and I need a wife. If you say I want a wife, you'll choose someone you want. But if you say I need one, you'll take who you can get. Very bad story. So beliefs that cause you to lean toward laziness and inaction and self-justification and self-loathing are, as we've said already, a really bad deal. And one version of this is the I'm happy where I'm at in life version. That's also a limiting belief, because when you say I'm happy where I'm at, you're going to stop making improvements. Picture that on your weight loss scenario. You say, well, I'm happy where I'm at. Oh, well, that's very nice. If you don't mind be having so-so health and so-so income, and your life is not really moving in any one direction, then of course you're going down. And that's one of the ultimate lessons in life. You're either moving up or you're moving down. There is no such thing as stasis. You don't stay the same, because life doesn't stay the same. Number 4, they are cloaked fears of success. Now go back to staying home from school when you were young. You got sick and your mother took you to the doctor maybe on the first day and then said, stay home for 3 or 4 days. He or she has a bad case of the flu. Well, what happened? By the 4th day or the 5th day, you're starting to feel well enough to go back. And it's like the end of your week, right? And you don't want to go back anymore, because now you've identified with staying home. And you've gotten used to watching those same cartoons or soap operas or whatever it is you started watching. I'm thinking back at my experiences. And then pretty soon you start feeling more sick and you find ways not to go back. That's the fear of success. Even though when you go back to school, you get the added benefit of now you can, when school's out, play with your friends. But now you have no mission because it feels better to be sick. And this is a problem in a society like ours where people use terms like ADHD and, Asperger's, and people always attribute things to many manifold medical conditions. So these medical conditions every couple of years start showing up, and everybody's got it. Everybody talks about PTSD right now.
Dexter the peacock, an emotional support animal, had a ticket, but United wouldn't let him on board.
And of course, the people that do are usually the fakers, the ones that are just using it as an excuse because they're afraid of success. Because you can say what you want about all of these little bands on YouTube and Twitch and Instagram and all of these up-and-coming music bands that in many cases are not very good at all. But they're out there trying to make a difference. Whether they succeed or fail, they're out there trying to get attention. They're going to start a business, and if they fail, at least they'll learn something. A lot of people won't even act because they don't have a mission, because they're afraid of failure. And that's why limiting beliefs create more limiting beliefs. This is failing because it's the easiest thing to do. It's like an extension of I'm happy where I'm at in life. Sure, that's very easy. You won't even try. You're just going to keep on staying where you are because ultimately you're afraid of success and failure. And number 5, limiting beliefs always come at a time when you are at war with yourself and you lack clarity. The timing of limiting beliefs is absolutely ridiculous. Whereas legitimate pain points in your life can come even when you're on your upward trail. Your boss can give you feedback and evaluate you and find weaknesses, and you say, okay, I need to humble myself to accept that criticism. Whereas limiting beliefs wait until you're facing the death of a family member, you're facing a bad diagnosis at the doctor, you're facing a loss of a job, something that causes you to question your worth and your value, aka a moment of a lack of clarity. You know what clarity is when you see it. Clarity, when you have moments of clarity, you have the right advice to give. You are on your A game because you see clearly what you should do. When you get up in the morning and you have clarity, your day is laid out in front of you. Your week is laid out in front of you. You're on the upward trail. And you're not depressed, because depression is the inability to construct a future. And I've put this out there before. When you're on your purpose, you're strong. And you can see your setbacks. You can see what's coming ahead just by using a little bit of wisdom. You can invert your thinking. This is another way that it's very easy to spot a limiting belief. The timing of limiting beliefs, they have to hijack weaknesses. They have to get through your defense matrix. They can't attack you outright because, again, they have no life outside of your life. They have to have you to live. So when you're thinking about binging, when you're thinking about throwing away your health or making a selfish decision to follow an addiction, it comes at a moment of crisis, not clarity. Now, what happens when you're invariably not in a moment of clarity? You can't stay in a moment of clarity forever. You can remember and you can observe the timing. Invert your thinking. Have things been going well for a while? Has someone in the family been born? Well, someone is probably going to die. Has someone gotten a new career, changed careers? Someone is probably going to lose a career or transition out. This is the nature of life. You go back and you look, and the teachers are retiring and the taught are becoming the teachers. You can look around in your social circuit and you will see this. You will see that the people around you are now changing positions. That's the nature of life. And all of the suffering that you have faced, all of the negative issues that you've encountered, you've survived. You've kept going. And as a result, you've noticed something, that true suffering, moments of weakness, come amidst moments of strength. That's the nature of life. Again, life is a mixed bag. You don't get all of one thing. You would jump off a building if all you knew was suffering. If you never had moments of relief, of course you do. Instead, you go years and you have a good outcome, and then you struggle with a health crisis, and then you struggle with the loss of someone, and then you face survivor's guilt because you say to yourself, I should have died, not that person, or something that causes you to question your value. But remember these 5 points and understand that as the seasons change, as the times change, positions change. And when you do that, you're not struggling. You have clarity.